Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into Yuval Noah Harari's incredible book, Nexus. We're going to explore what he calls the single most powerful force in all of human history, and that's information. But here's the twist. The rules of that game are changing, like right now, in ways that are kind of hard to even wrap our heads around.
So let's kick things off with this really powerful idea that's at the core of Harari's whole argument. We usually think of history as this epic story of clashing armies and big empires, right? But what if the real engine, the thing that actually drives history, isn't swords and steel, but stories?
Yeah, exactly. Stories are how we build our information networks. And for thousands and thousands of years, those networks were our thing, an exclusively human game. But now? Well, now there's a new player on the field. A totally new kind of intelligence is stepping in. And it's not just playing by our rules, it's about to rewrite the whole rulebook. That's the huge shift we're talking about today.
Okay, so to really get a handle on what's going on, we got to go back to basics. We have to ask a really fundamental question. What even is information? Like, what's its real job?
Most of us probably think the purpose of information is just to describe the world, right? A map shows you the land, a news report tells you what happened. Simple. But Harari says, nope, that's not it. He argues it has a much more radical purpose.
It turns out, information's main job isn't to describe reality, it's to create reality. It's all about action. Think about it this way. A zebra's DNA doesn't have a little paragraph in it describing a lion. No, it has the instructions, the code, to build a body that knows instinctively to run like hell when it sees one. It's about organizing cells to cooperate for survival. That's a whole different ballgame.
So that brings us to what you could call the age of human networks. For basically all of history, we were the only ones running the show. We were the masters of these information networks, and we built our entire world on top of two really powerful and really different pillars. And what are those pillars? Mythology and bureaucracy. Yeah, I know, sounds like an odd couple, right? But think about it. One is all about inspiration, the big stories. The other is about organization, the nitty-gritty systems. One gives us shared meaning, and the other makes sure the whole show runs smoothly. It's this combination that lets millions, even billions, of complete strangers work together.
So on the one hand, you've got mythology. This is what creates what Harari calls intersubjective realities. It's a fancy term for shared stories we all agree to believe in. Things like gods, nations, even money. They only have power because we all collectively decide they do. Then, on the other hand, you have bureaucracy. Now, this sounds boring, but it's absolutely vital. It creates the invisible systems that keep us alive, like the ridiculously complex sewage networks that have saved millions of lives, all thanks to organized paperwork.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because you can see how these two systems handle being wrong. Holy texts, for example, often fall into what Harari calls an infallibility trap. They claim to be perfect, the final word, so they can't change. But then look at something like a scientific text, say the DSM, the Big Book of Psychology. It's designed to be updated. It openly admits it was wrong in the past, like when it listed homosexuality as a disorder, so that it can get better. One system is brittle and gets stuck. The other is flexible and learns.
So this basic setup, mythology and bureaucracy, it was pretty stable for, thousands of years. It worked. But then, in the 20th century, something completely new entered the network, a new kind of agent. And it changed. Well, it changed everything.
Just think about how information used to flow. Before computers, it was simple. Didn't matter if it was the Bible or a tax form, every single idea, every piece of data had to pass through a human brain. A person had to create it, a person had to read it, and a person had to decide what to do with it. We were the non-negotiable middlemen, the gatekeepers of all information.
And this is the revolutionary part. A printing press, a radio, those are just tools. They're like pipes for information, passing messages from one person to another. A computer is something else entirely. It's not just a pipe. It's an active agent in the network. It can do things all by itself.
And that creates a brand new flow of information. For the first time in history, a non-human entity can look at data, make its own decisions, and, get this, even generate completely new ideas, all without a human in the loop. The gatekeeper is no longer us. Harari has this incredible phrase from what's happening. He says that by mastering language, AI is hacking the operating system of human civilization. It's getting the keys to the kingdom. It's learning how to pull the levers on the very stories, laws, and cultures that our entire world is built on.
So we're entering this new world where AI can write the story. And look, that's filled with absolutely incredible potential. But, and it's a big but, it also comes with some huge, and I mean deeply urgent, challenges.
Harari really flags three major dangers we need to be thinking about. First, there's the alignment problem. Basically, how do we make sure an AI's goals are actually aligned with what's good for us? Second, there's the terrifying potential for a total surveillance state, the kind of thing past dictators could only dream about. And third, something totally new and kind of scary: AI-generated religions.
And I mean, just stop and think about that last one for a second. We've already seen how movements like QAnon can spring up from anonymous online messages and get a massive following. Harari's point is that today's AI can churn out texts that are way more sophisticated, way more persuasive than any of that stuff. It could create entire new mythologies with terrifying speed and on a global scale.
Okay, so if this is the new reality, what do we do? What's the path forward? How on earth do we navigate a world where AI is becoming this global power all on its own?
Well, Harari's argument here is that the old debate, nationalism versus globalism, it's just obsolete. It doesn't apply anymore. He says that real patriotism isn't about hating other countries. It's about taking care of your own people. And in the world we live in now, the only way to truly protect your people is through global cooperation. There's just no other way.
He uses a great analogy. An out-of-control AI is like a pandemic. It doesn't care about borders. It's a threat to every single nation. No one wins if we let power slip from human hands into the hands of algorithms. A true patriot would absolutely use a vaccine made in another country to save their citizens, right? Well, it's the exact same logic here. We have to work together, globally, to regulate this technology for everyone's safety.
And that really brings us to the final, massive question that Nexus leaves us wrestling with. For all of human history, we were the storytellers. We were the myth makers. We created reality with our words and our beliefs. That era is now coming to an end. So the choice we have to make right now about how we're going to share this planet with a non-human intelligence, well, that choice isn't just going to define the next few decades. It could very well define the future of life itself.